Welcome to an ETV interview exclusive. I'm Bryan Baumgartner, and I'm joined today by Interim Provost Dr. Michael Hannan. How are you today, Dr.
Hi,
Hannan?
good. Good to see you, Bryan.
Now we're here today to discuss the Middle States re-accreditation process. So first, can you explain a little bit about what that process is like?
Sure. Middle States refers to the Middle States Commission on Higher Education, which is one of 6 regional accrediting bodies in the United States. Effectively, every college and university in the country, if their students are to be eligible for federal or state financial aid, has to be accredited by one of these bodies. And the Middle States accrediting body covers basically the Mid-Atlantic region, Pennsylvania, New York, Maryland, and actually Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands for some reason. But they review all of these colleges and universities on a 10-year cycle. And so the process basically involves having the university examine itself in a self-study process, looking at the 14 different standards that Middle States sets for high quality, and we need to demonstrate to them every 10 years that in fact we meet these standards, and if not, what processes we have in place in order to meet them in a short period of time.
Now, what are some of these standards that you talk about that we have to meet as a university?
The standards, again, I won't name all 14 because I'm sure nobody cares to hear all of those, but there are a number of standards basically dealing with every aspect of the university, but all of them tie back to standard number 1, which is on mission and goals. And so they want the university to have a mission which is relevant for higher education. And our mission deals with providing a high-quality undergraduate, graduate, and co-curricular education, and one which is focused on individual student success, a commitment to diversity, and meeting the needs of the region, which I'm sure you probably remembered from reading the mission statement multiple times. But effectively, that mission statement is to be what drives the rest of our actions at the university. And so within all of these different standards, we always have to go back to what we're doing is in support of that. Beyond the mission standard, we also have standards regarding planning and budgeting. Do we have goals set for the university and a strategic plan tied to how we budget and allocate our resources? That again supports the central mission. There are standards with regard to the quality of faculty, to the quality of the academic programs in the curricula, the quality of our general education program, and also something which has become increasingly important in accreditation is assessment. Do we do institutional assessment to see if we're actually meeting the objectives we've set, and do we do student learning outcomes assessment, which is effectively looking at, for each of our academic programs, what is it that a graduate from that program should know? What should they come away with? And do we have processes in place to test whether, in fact, students do know those things when they graduate? And do we use that data to continuously improve those programs? So those are some of the main elements of the standards for Middle States.
Now, talking about assessment, how has the self-evaluation process gone so far here at Edinboro?
It has gone very well. We have been doing this actually since 2011. Our previous accreditation occurred in 2003, so on a 10-year cycle. We should have technically had our visit last year in 2013, but when President Brown had left the university, Middle States gave us a 1-year extension on that process. And so our site visit is actually going to be this coming spring in 2014. But we have had a very large group of faculty, students, and managers who have been working in what we call working groups to address each of these standards, and they've been doing that since 2011. This past year, each of those working groups had completed basically a first and second draft of their chapters addressing these different standards, and this summer the coordinating committee, which includes myself, Dr. Lagan-Bussell from psychology, and Professor Trish Hillman from math computer science. We've gone through those chapters, edited them some more, added some additional evidence and data, and have kind of a first draft of the entire self-study document, which we've shared with the chair of our site visit team already. So there's been a lot of work done over the last 3 years, a lot of input come in from constituencies all over campus to try to put together a good product.
Now, in that self-evaluation documentation, have you guys found that Edinboro is up to par with the standards for Middle States for most of the programs here?
Yes, I think we look pretty strong in nearly all of the standards. Part of the self-study process is examining whether or not we fully meet all of the standards, and there were some instances where we found that there was some additional work we could do in order to improve. And during the last couple of years, and especially since President Woolman has started, we have put some new processes in place to make sure that we do meet those standards. When Middle States does their full evaluation, they might find for some of those processes that we're still at the early stages, and so we may need to do some follow-up with them a couple years later just so they can see that it is a sustainable process. But we do have a strong university, and we have been doing really much of what the Middle States standards say we should be doing to be a quality institution.
Now, a large part of the evaluation is the site visit. Can you talk about the importance of the site visit in early 2014?
Sure. Well, even prior to the full site visit, we have the chair of the site team, and there will be 8 members of the site team. The chair of the site team is Dr. John Gibraltar. He's the president at Frostburg State University in Maryland. He's going to be visiting campus on November 17th and 18th to meet with myself and the president, some students, also other members of the working groups, and members of our Council of Trustees, and a few other groups, just to get a feel for how the process has evolved over the last few years, and to examine the resources that we'll have available for the full team when it comes in the spring. So that's a relatively short visit. In the spring, effectively the very last week in March and the first couple of days in April, the full site team will be arriving, and that's a very important time for the campus because the various members of that site team will be focusing on subsets of the standards, and they will be visiting probably nearly every office and department on campus, asking both faculty, other support staff, and students questions about the different elements of the standards. And so at the end of that visit on the last day, they will present to us a short oral report of what their main findings are, and then shortly thereafter, based on that visit, we will get a written report that we can respond to. But effectively, a site team like that basically is going to be looking at the self-study, all of the documentation that we have submitted that says how we have met these standards, and their primary job is to come here and verify that what was included in there is in fact true.
Now, why is it important for students to be aware of this process and to be aware of the site visit?
Well, Middle States is wants the entire accreditation process to be very inclusive, and so for them, having students aware and involved in this process is just as important as having the faculty and other managers involved in it. Accreditation is critically important, as I mentioned earlier. In order for students to receive federal financial aid, which would be student loans from the Department of Education or Pell Grants or even FIA loans from the state, the institution has to be accredited by Middle States. And so for that reason alone, I think it's very important for students to be aware of the process and to be engaged in it. But being accredited also means that your university has met a certain quality standard that is set by the regional body. And it's important, I think, for students to understand that the universities does meet those standards and that they can have confidence in the quality of their degrees.
Now, after the site visit and the final documentation is put in, how long until Edinboro finds out if they've been re-accredited by the Middle States?
The process will involve a meeting of us receiving a written report from Middle States, the Middle States site team. We'll have an opportunity to provide a response to that to clarify if there are any errors in there that we think had occurred. Then that full report is going to go to the Middle States Commission They will also ask for additional input from us, and then at their next meeting, they will make a decision regarding re-accreditation. I believe that their next meeting is very late in the spring and early summer, and so we would get a final decision at that time.
Is there anything else you'd like to add about the Middle States process?
I'd like to mention that there are many, many people on campus who have been involved in the Middle States process. As I said, we had 6 different working groups of faculty, staff, and students who have worked on that, because it's important to really have input from all of those individuals. And they have been working for more than 2 years now in this process, and so I think it's important to recognize them for all the work and time that they have put into it. I'd also like to mention that we do have a Middle States self-study website as part of the university's webpage, and so at any time students can go into the university page and just type Middle States in the keyword search. That'll take them to this page, which kind of summarizes where we are in the process at this time. Gives them a link to the full standards if they're interested in that, and also some links to other Middle States documents. On that page, during the next several weeks to finish off the semester, we're also going to be posting very short newsletters which basically highlight each of the different standards and gives a brief description of what is the standard looking for in order to meet the requirements, and also where we are as a university in meeting those requirements. And so if students are interested in getting more information, I think those newsletters will be very helpful in that sense.
Great. Well, thanks for joining me today.
Good.
Appreciate
Thank you. Appreciate being here.